Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ahlan wa sahlan wa marhaban bikum. Welcome to the Moulana Sulaimaan Ravat show here on ITV. And this evening I'll be your host with Moulana sitting opposite me to discuss a very important topic, which is happiness. We all strive to be happy at all times. We all want to be happy. And this evening Moulana is going to unpack this topic more for us. Moulana, assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the show.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to you, Muhammad, and to the viewers. It's always a pleasure having you so we can have a bit of a discussion and interaction.
Yeah, it's really nice.
I get a bit lonely sometimes.
Yeah, and I think people also prefer having a conversation instead of just a talking heads at times. Moulana, this topic of happiness, why did we choose this topic today?
You know, because everyone in the world, whether you are wealthy or poor, whether you are talented or not so talented, whether you are powerful or you are totally subservient, whether you're an achiever or you haven't achieved, whether you're a leader, you're a follower, everyone wants to be happy. It's the one thing where thousands of books have been written, universities around the world lecture on it, scientists have been studying it for ages, some governments have even appointed special cabinet positions. The UN has a special day for happiness. And Google Analytics prove that people are searching for it. So it is the most sought after thing, yet for most people it remains elusive. It's the one thing that everyone wants. That's the question. What is that one thing that everyone wants, but very few people get? Happiness. So that's why we have to talk about it, because it's what we're all searching for, isn't it?
But why is it so elusive? Why is happiness something that everybody's looking for, yet it's so elusive and people keep on searching for it?
Well, that's the $1 million question.
I think if you had the answer to that...
I don't know if they'll give me $1 million.
Exactly.
But here's advice for free, right? It's a question, the answer to which could be a couple of volumes of books. But if we look at some of the pivotal factors in terms of why happiness remains so elusive. Firstly, no matter what your circumstance or what your condition in life, everyone has the potential to be happy. That's the way Allah has created it. Why are we then not happy, number one, or not as happy as we can be or we should be, considering the circumstances that we find ourselves in? And I think that's an important thing that I need to qualify up front, that this discussion is not only for the depressed cases, for people who are suicidal, for people who have lost hope in life. Of course, it's more relevant to them. I mean, if you are depressed, severely depressed, if you are suicidal, you've lost hope in life, then you need to hear about happiness. But the majority of people don't fall into that category, as much as the number of people in that category is alarmingly on the increase. The majority of the people fall in the category where they are fairly happy, but they're not as happy as they can be or as they should be. So this discussion is relevant for them. So it's not about why are you not happy, it's also about why are you not as happy as you can be. So there are some reasons why happiness is elusive. Number one, it's because our approach is wrong. The one thing that many of us suffer from is what they call the next syndrome. You're looking for happiness in your next purchase, in your next gadget, in your next car, in the next person even, in the next trip, in the next holiday. It's always the next. The very simple example that I give, when you're growing up, you may be unhappy with the rules of your parents. They don't want you to go out at night. They don't want you to befriend this person. They don't want you to buy that. And you get frustrated and you think, you know what? The day when I'm on my own, that's when I'll be happy. Then you become an adult, you get a job, now you're on your own. You feel that sense of freedom for a while, you're a bit happy, and then things stabilize, normalize. Then you think to yourself, no, when I get married, I'll be happy. Then you get married, obviously, on your wedding day. You're all smiles, honeymoon, 3 months, 6 months. Then things normalize. Then you think, no, maybe when I become a parent, that will be true happiness. Everyone says, when you hold a baby in your arms for the first time, Allah blesses you with a child. Oh, you are super elated. You're on this, in the clouds, as they would say. And then afterwards, you have to wake up in the middle of the night, and there's diapers, and there's expenses, and there's bottles, and crying babies, and difficult children, and stubborn children. And things normalize. Then you think, maybe when I buy my house. When you buy your house, you're very happy. I don't have to pay rent. I don't have to listen to a landlord. I can paint what I want. I can change what I want. 6 months later, it's like you were staying in a rented house anyway. You always wanted this car. You finally purchase it. You drive it out of the showroom. It's like you're flying a jet. And then 6 months later, it drives like your old jalopy. You get into the car. It's become normal. So you're chasing happiness in the next purchase, the next trip, the next milestone in your life, the next achievement in your life, and it remains like a shadow. It's almost there, but it's elusive. You see, material possessions can give you a temporary boost to your happiness, but it doesn't provide everlasting happiness. So that's the one reason why happiness is so elusive. The second reason is we focus not on what we need, but what we want. Now, you can be the biggest billionaire in the world. You can have more money than Bill Gates, but you will not get everything that you want. You may have all the money, but you won't get the prettiest woman. You may have the prettiest woman, but you won't get the top job. You may get the top job, but then you won't get the fame. There's no one ever, before or ever until the day of Qiyamah, that will get everything that they want. So focus on what you need, not what you want, because the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells us there's no end to what you want. If you look at the Steinhoff saga, right, that has dominated headlines, you ask yourself the question, these guys were in the mega bucks. They had holiday homes, they had personal jets, they had yachts that they used as toys. Why would they want more? Because they didn't focus on what they need, they focused on what they wanted. You have a private jet, you don't say, hey, look at me. I'm better than the person flying in first class. I got my own jet. No, look at, he's got a better jet. He's got the jet that's got the room with the personalized shower. Right? Even if you get Air Force One, you still won't be happy, because there'll still be something out there that's a little better. So nothing will satisfy your wants until you go to your grave. Therefore, when you focus on your wants, you'll never be happy, because you'll never have everything that you want. Another reason why happiness is so elusive, and I'm just focusing on three, these are kind of fundamental, pivotal reasons, is that we live too much in the past and in the future. We obsess too much over what happened wrong, what went wrong in the past, and we worry too much about what could possibly go wrong in the future. We forget to live in the present. Happiness is in enjoying the present. Look, the Quran talks extensively about what happened in the past, but the Quran talks about it from the prism of you taking a lesson, not living there. Islam tells us about tying your camel and preparing for the future, but there's no guarantee of life beyond this minute. So you prepare to a reasonable extent for the future, you learn your lessons from what happened in the past, you grieve, you go through the process of overcoming it, but your life is now in the present. Enjoy your spouse, enjoy your children, enjoy the car that you have. Like Sheikh Sadi Rahmatullah used to say, I was walking on a blistering hot day, I had no shoes and my feet were taking pain, and I passed by the masjid. I said, let me go in the masjid and make dua to Allah that I want shoes. And as I was walking into the masjid, I saw a man crawling out who had no legs. So happiness is about enjoying what you currently have, and it's about enjoying being in the present. When you obsess over what could happen in the future, and when you fret over what happened in the past, you aren't able to be present and to enjoy the present moment. And that's sad, because many of us don't enjoy what we presently have. So these are three fundamental reasons why happiness is elusive. You're chasing the next, you're focused on your wants and not your needs, and you're living too much in the past and in the future.
You're mentioning enjoying what you have at this moment. I was on my way to the studio this evening. I was driving here and I saw this guy on the side of the road, one of the vagrants who live under the highway, and he was eating, I think it looked like a box of KFC or something like that. And the joy on this man's face, knowing that, and I actually stopped and asked him, I said, you're looking so happy. He says, because this is what I have today, and I'm so happy to have it. And you could see the joy on this man's face, and it was true happiness that he showed because of just one box of chicken.
You know, Mohammed, happiness is not going to be in achieving the major milestones in your life. How many major milestones can you achieve in your life? You'll probably end up counting on one hand. Yeah. The day I got married, the day I became a parent, the day I bought my house, the day I went for Hajj, the day I got the promotion, the day I started my own company, the day I was financially free. Those are what? It make up 1% of the total time of your lifespan. Of course, those are major moments. But within 6 months, things normalize. You get that job, within 6 months, it normalizes. You get that woman, after 6 months, a lady who's less pretty starts to look more pretty. That's just the nature of life. So if you want to be truly happy, you have to enjoy the smaller things in life. When Sheikh Hamza Yusuf's mother passed away, he wrote a tribute to her on Facebook. And the one thing that stood out for me, he mentioned that my mother would insist that when we eat, we must eat slowly so you can savor every morsel. Now you and I, we're chasing, right? The next and the next. You have the best of meals in front of you, the tastiest of meals. You enjoy it, but you're rushing through it. He said, my mother would insist that when we sit on the table, take your time and enjoy every morsel, every crumb, every drop of what you are drinking. It's a bounty of Allah. You don't know whether you'll have it the next day. Wake up in the morning and appreciate the sunshine. Smell the roses, as they say. Enjoy your cup of coffee. Don't gulp it down. Savor it. The happiness is in those simple daily things.
Well, and I think it's really important that this topic, and just before we go to the break, it reminds me of the late Ibrahim Bhai Gangat. He started off his show on the radio every day with such joy and happiness. And just speaking about happiness, it just reminded me of how he started off his show and the importance of being happy and appreciating the small things in life. We're going to take our first break now. Stay tuned. Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to the Moulana Sulaimaan Ravat show here on ITV. This evening we're discussing a really important topic and a bit of a fun topic as well, which is happiness. Before the break, Moulana spoke to us about the so-called $1 million question on why happiness is so elusive. This time I'm going to put Moulana on the spot again and ask him for maybe the $2 million question is, what is happiness?
You'll find many different definitions of what is happiness. Some of them are spiritual, some of them are philosophical, whatever. The definition that I like, because it's short, simple, and straight to the point, happiness is the consistent mental and emotional state of well-being. Consistent is the key word. Everybody has happiness here and there, but when you are consistently feeling well in terms of your mental state and your emotional state. If you look at this definition, it's telling us that happiness has more to do with your internal condition than your external circumstances. Happiness is the general feeling of contentment and satisfaction. There's a very apt quote in this regard where they say, happiness is not a destination that you arrive at, it is a manner of traveling. It talks to what I was saying before the break about enjoying the smaller things in your daily routine. Happiness is not the ultimate goal, the major milestones in your life. That, okay, I want to be a millionaire. Okay, fine, that's a good goal to have. I want to be a millionaire, I want to be financially freedom. But enjoy every day of your work. What's the point of slaving for 30 years and not enjoying any second of it, only to enjoy that million that may come or may not come at the end of it, right? So enjoy the process. It's a manner of traveling, it's not a destination that you arrive at. Now the key thing here is happiness is based on your decision to be happy. Happiness is a choice. You have to choose to be happy. You're not just going to be happy like that. You have to choose to be happy. The problem is many of us are unhappy because we're searching for happiness. Happiness is not out there. Happiness is in here. It's in your heart. It's in your mind. It's in your soul. You have to choose to be happy. It's about that internal condition rather than the external circumstances.
So how do you choose to be happy? I know it sounds like a silly question, but based on tonight's show, how do you choose to be happy instead of being this miserable person who looks to be unhappy all the time?
Well, firstly, you need to understand what does happiness comprise of, right? Now, this is very interesting. Just bear with me. It's a little technical, but it gives us a good insight. Psychologists tell us that 50% of happiness is genetic. So you spoke a little bit earlier on about Ibrahim Bhai Gangat. Happy-go-lucky is the term that people would use for such personalities. May Allah fill his grave with nur. So 50% of happiness is genetic. You know, those happy-go-lucky people who are just free-spirited. 10%, only 10% of happiness is due to your circumstances. How much money you have, where you live, what are the political conditions, the socio-economic conditions, the demographic factors, your personal history, your family history, your status, your career, only 10%. And 40% of happiness is derived from intentional activity, things you choose to do or you choose not to do. So, when it comes to the 50% which is genetic and the 10% which has got to do with circumstances, that 60%, Islam tells us you apply the concept of taqdeer, rada bil qada. That whatever Allah has decreed for me, I'm satisfied with that. So whatever temperament Allah has given me, whatever personality Allah has given me, whatever job Allah has given me, whatever spouse Allah has given me, whatever profile Allah has given me, where Allah has chosen for me to be born and for me to live, I am content with the decree of Allah. Research has shown that the immune system works better when you don't have a choice. Because when you have too many options, it complicates life. So in terms of your genetics and in terms of your circumstances, you have very little choice. I mean, who's your parents? You had no choice. Who's your brother? You have no choice. I suppose the first wife, they say you had no choice. But the second wife, then it's your stupidity. So, you know, I always tease my wife. I say, you know what, she tells me, oh, you know, maybe you should have married a woman whose father was much more rich. They could have taken care of you. I said, well, the first time excuse, the second time I don't know, then you get the diggers. But anyway, when it comes to that 60%, we apply this very powerful belief of I am content with the decree of Allah. There's this beautiful dua that Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has taught us, and I endeavor to try and make this dua every day. Allahumma qanni'ni bima razaqtani. Allah grant me contentment in my rizq. And rizq is not only wealth. Your family is your rizq, your nutrition is your rizq, your knowledge is part of rizq. So whatever you have granted me, let me be content with it. Everyone wants an increase in sustenance, but more important than an increase is contentment. Wa barik li fi, and grant me barakah in what you have already decreed for me. So whatever sustenance I have, let me be content with it and let there be blessings in it. Because otherwise you can have 1 trillion, but you don't do the work of 1 million if there isn't blessings. And this part of the dua is so important. وَخْلُفْ لِي عَلَى كُلِّ غَائِبَةٍ لِي بِخَيْرٍ. That, oh Allah, whatever you have decreed for me not to have, grant me something better in its place. Because every human will want certain things which are not decreed for him. Now that can either make you or break you. Maybe you don't get it, so then your whole life you're unhappy. But you make a dua like this, oh Allah, whatever is not meant for me, grant me something better. In this world as well as in the year after. What a powerful dua, what a comprehensive dua for happiness. So that takes care of the 60%, which is a little out of your control. The 40% is directly in your control. So happy people don't wait for life to be perfect or even near perfect before they can be happy. They are happy with what they have. They find that happiness in their daily routine, because happiness is a choice. You have to choose to be happy. Now, coming more directly to what you were saying, that how do you choose to be happy? By embracing what I would call the happiness portfolio. And the happiness portfolio is made up of 4 things: faith, family, community, and yourself. And this is the crux of the discussion. These 4 things: faith, family, community, and yourself. Now, if you look at the first one, in this happiness recipe, if you want to call it, or the happiness portfolio, faith, that's the most important thing. Because whatever we've been talking about up to now is a background. The crux of it is this, that if Allah is happy with you, you will be happy. And if Allah is not happy with you, you will never be happy. That's it. So your faith speaks to that. If Allah is happy with you, you will be happy. And if Allah is not happy with you, you will never be happy. And this is also backed up again by research. You know, research has shown that people who practice a religion are happier than those who don't. Because you have something greater on whom you hinge your expectations. And people who don't believe in a greater being, they put all the expectations in themselves, and you're always going to let yourself down. You have limited capacity. The second aspect of faith, which is so beautiful, is that we have to understand, as humans, we are a combination of body and soul. It's not only a body. The majority of our time, our resources, our energy is spent on nourishing the body. We spend very little time on nourishing the soul. So even doctors today, they get cases where the person is depressed, but there's nothing wrong in that person's life. Marriage is solid, business is solid, health is solid. So why are you depressed? Because your body is very strong and your soul is very weak, so there's a disconnect. It creates a hollow. They refer to it as soul loss, S-O-U-L. And that is where your faith is what actually nourishes your soul. Because the nourishment of the soul is your salah. The nourishment of the soul is your dhikr. The nourishment of the soul is your dua. Those are the things that nourish your soul. So faith is linked to your happiness because of your belief structure, right? Something major catastrophic happens in your life, it shakes you, but it doesn't break you because you have strong faith. If it breaks you, you'll never be happy. That's why you see many times people who are not of faith, someone dies and they never recover. 20 years later, they still haven't recovered. And people of faith, of course you grieve. Of course you miss them, but you are able to move on. Another aspect of faith in relation to happiness is abstention from sin. The Quran sounds out a very loud warning. وَمَنْ أَعْرَضَ عَنْ ذِكْرِي فَإِنَّ لَهُ مَعِيشَةً ضَنْكَ. That if you disobey Allah, you will live a difficult life. You see, many times we hear the stories. You'll have these pop stars, these movie stars, these football stars. They've got all the money, all the wealth, all the fame. They've got everything that you can, physically want. Yet they're suicidal. Yet they need to take pills at night to sleep. They've got the best of homes. Some of them own islands. They have private jets. They have an army of servants. They have multitudes of women throwing themselves at their feet. They've got more money than they can ever spend. They've got all the fame in the world. Anybody will recognize them anywhere in the world. Yet they're depressed. Yet they're suicidal. Yet the beggar on the street corner is getting more sleep than they are. Why? Because when you live your life in the disobedience of Allah, you'll never be happy. And the irony of our lives is we're searching for happiness by doing those things which Allah doesn't want us to do. We're sinning in the hope that we will get happiness, but sin will only bring you superficial pleasure. Sin will bring you glitter. It will never bring you the gold. So that's the first part of the discussion pertaining to faith, that your faith nourishes your soul. Your faith will guide you to abstain from sin, and all of that's critical to your happiness. But your faith also gives you teachings that enables you to navigate your life in such a way that you are happy. For example, our deen teaches us that we must practice optimism. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has told us, very famous hadith, "Ajaban li amri al-mu'min." How amazing is the affair of a believer. Something good happens, you make shukr. Something bad happens, you make sabr. When Abdullah bin Abbas lost his eyesight, that's the biggest physical setback, he was still very happy. So people said, but hey, you've just lost your eyesight. He said, but my brain is still functioning, my limbs are still functioning. So I've lost my eyesight, I make sabr, but I make shukr for everything else. The quality of your life is connected to the quality of your thoughts. If you're positive in your thoughts, if you focus on what you have rather than what you don't have, if you focus on what you need rather than what you want, if you focus on what's going right rather than what's going wrong, if you focus on what you have achieved rather than what you have lost, then you'll be happy. And Islam teaches you to practice optimism. Islam also teaches us to develop an attitude of gratitude. The famous hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You wake up in the morning, you are secure, you have shelter, you have just enough food for the day to keep you alive. It is as if Allah has given you the whole world and whatever it contains. You have nothing to complain about. The problem is we complain too much because we only focus on what we don't have. We don't focus on what we have. And that compromises our happiness. There was a sailor who was lost at sea for 21 days. And then they discovered him and he was miraculously saved. And they told him, what lesson did you learn from this experience? He said, the lesson I learned is this, that if you wake up in the morning and if you have water and food just for that day, then you have nothing to complain about. You see, these lessons you only learn when you are put through an extreme test. Another principle of Islam and faith, which enables us to be happy, is Islam teaches you how to compare. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, when it comes to matters of this world, don't look at those who have more, always look at those who have less. If you don't have shoes, don't look at the one who's wearing a Louis Vuitton pair, look at the man who doesn't have legs. If you don't have a car, look at the man who doesn't have a bicycle. If you have a car, don't look at the man who's got a Ferrari. Look at the man who doesn't have, a means of transport. Because there'll always be someone who has something that you don't have or something better than you have. You'll never be satisfied. Of course, when it comes to matters of deen, then you always look at those who are doing more. Another principle is Islam teaches us to practice forgiveness. You need to forgive others for the pleasure of Allah, not because you want anything in return from them or you want them to reciprocate or acknowledge you, because until and unless you don't forgive, you're carrying the baggage. It's like a thorn in your shoe and you're trying to walk a long journey. You need to liberate yourself by forgiving people, by letting go of the baggage and by moving on. It's so sad to see sometimes people who have been wrong. They were definitely wrong, but 30 years down the line, they're still carrying a grudge. They're still carrying the baggage. Our deen teaches us to have expectations in Allah alone. That's also how faith guides you to happiness, because when you put expectations in others, even your spouse, even your own children, they're going to let you down. Human beings do not fulfill the rights of Allah. Where are they going to fulfill your rights? Sometimes you do everything for your children thinking they'll do for you in old age. And when they don't do to the extent that you expect, then you are totally broken. Do for your children, but for the pleasure of Allah. Don't expect from your child, because if they don't do for you, you'll be disappointed, you'll be hurt, but it won't break you. Because you know, I did for the pleasure of Allah, my reward is secure. You did for your spouse, and they don't appreciate, I did for the pleasure of Allah. So do only for Allah and expect only from Allah, and you will be happy. So to round up this point, Muhammad, about faith, being the first of that 4-part recipe for happiness, or how to choose to be happy, is we as Muslims need to understand Islam has not come to restrict us. It has not come to burden us or to deprive us. The teachings of Islam, I've just given you a few, are designed to make us happy. Islam does not advocate sadness. Islam does not advocate deprivation or marginalization or mediocrity. Islam wants us to succeed. Islam wants us to be happy. But then you have to make the choice, because happiness is a choice. You have to choose to be happy.
It's really important talks, Moulana. I think we can carry on with this topics and part of this recipe you have after this break. I think we overstayed the segment. We're going to take a short break now. Stay tuned. Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to the Moulana Sulaimaan Ravat show here on ITV. And this evening we're discussing a really important topic of happiness. Moulana, before the break we started on this recipe for happiness. You spoke about faith. Moving on now, you said there's 4 different branches in this recipe. Can you elaborate more for us?
So faith was the first and most important. Next is family. And I think we don't give due consideration to this. We live in this rat race, this age of instant gratification, of material progress. And the consequence of this is we have sacrificed our greatest assets, one of our greatest sources and reservoirs of happiness, and that is our relationships, especially with family members. Unfortunately, Mohammed, our homes have become like hotels. I normally give this example. When you live in a hotel, or when you're staying in a hotel, you're sharing the same roof, the same entrance, the same exit, you're eating the same dining hall, but the person sleeping in room 101 is totally oblivious of the person sleeping in room 102. Today we're eating on the same table, but each one is totally absorbed in their own thoughts, eating with one hand, texting with the other. Husband and wife will be sitting on one bed, 30 centimeters apart. No sparks will be flying. Both are on their gadgets. If the husband wants to make his wife laugh, he can't tell her the joke because she'll say, "Hey, what you said?" He rather WhatsApp her the joke. She'll grasp it quicker if he sends it to a WhatsApp and they're sitting 30 seconds apart, 30 centimeters apart. It's not because they don't love each other or they don't care for each other or they're not doing for each other. The husband is out there working. The wife is there working, doing the chores of the home. They're doing a lot for each other in that sense. But there's emotional neglect. You're not putting effort into your relationships, and that deprives you of genuine and long-lasting happiness. Emotional neglect because of work, because of hobbies, because of friends, puts a strain on your relationships. We need to invest in our relationships. I always say this, it's more important to invest in your family than it is to invest for your family. We spend a lot of time investing for our families, and this is a tragedy of life. You take a good example, a man will say, "Yeah, I know I'm neglecting my children, but I'm working hard. I need to pay the school fees, then I need to pay university fees, then I need to get them educated, then I need to get them married, then I need to buy them a house, set them up in life. Maybe I need to start him off with a business." So by the time you do all of that, you're 50 years of age. Now you think, okay, I brought up the children, I've married them off, I've set them up. Now I'll spend some time with my wife. But then your wife is diagnosed with cancer. And there's no time left. Or the two of you have drifted apart emotionally. Now you want to spend time with your children, but they've grown up and they're in their own rat race. So you overcompensate now and you spend extra time with your grandchildren and you spoil them. What you couldn't do for your children, you now want to do in an additional way for your grandchildren. So not everybody has that opportunity to live until you can do all of these things and then enjoy your relationships. Because sometimes death comes, either to you or to your family members. Sometimes circumstances, you're financially worse off in the latter part of your life than in the earlier part of your life. Or even if things work out and okay, you set yourself up, now you no longer have to work, but people got their own lives now. They got their own routines now. And then you realize they did a survey of men in their 50s. And they asked them, what is your single biggest regret? The majority of them said, I spent too much of time at work and not enough time with the family. Work has its place, there's no doubt. But being in a relationship is a full-time job. And they say, don't apply if you are not ready. You have to make the time. Everybody doesn't have the time. But Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, notwithstanding his colossal responsibilities, found the time. They say if you want to be happy, take that 5 minutes extra to talk to someone that you love. Spend that 5 minutes extra tucking your kids into bed. Have that 5-minute conversation with your wife every night. Find that time. 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Goes back to that point that we mentioned repeatedly. Happiness is not in the major milestones in life. Happiness is in these routine items in your day-to-day activity. You need to invest in your family by becoming a better partner, by not being married to your job. I always say this. The company will make a decision which is in the best interest of the company. You can work 40 years for the company. The day the new kid on the block comes on, he's more techno-savvy, he's got bright and fresh ideas. They'll usher you into retirement, they'll give you 1 Kruger coin or 1 watch as a token of their appreciation. Even if you're doing religious work, you're the imam of the masjid for 40 years. Now all of a sudden, you sound croaky. The new Moulana is fresh out of Darul Uloom. He can read like Sudais, he can talk like Katani. And they'll tell you, Moulana, we're going to give you a farewell dinner. And they usher you into retirement. So don't be married to your job. Because And it's not wrong for the company to make the decision. It's not wrong for the masjid to make the decision. The company will make a decision in the interest of the company. The organization will make a decision in the interest of the organization. you ought to have made a decision to be balanced in your life. So when you come to that point where the company no longer needs you, or the organization no longer needs you, you don't say, oh, but I sacrificed so much of my family time for you. And this is what you do to me, in the latter part of my life. I mean, even your own business, there'll come a time when your children will push you into retirement. Where your grandchildren will tell you, hey, listen, it's time for you to take daddy and maybe go for Umrah. Take it easy, dada, go for Umrah, nana. Go for holiday, we'll pay for it. They're trying to tell you in a very indirect way, your time is up in your own business. Your ideas are stale. It's time for the next generation to take over. So don't be married to your job. Put and invest time in your relationships. The irony of our lives is that we treat the people that we love the most the worst. At work, you'll smile with the boss, even though you're swearing him in your heart because he signs your paycheck. You'll smile with the customer, even though you're having the worst of days because you won the sale. You'll smile with the supplier because you won the discount. Then you'll come home, and that wife whom you love and the children whom you love, you'll take all your frustrations out on them. The wife will, take out all the frustrations of whatever happened in the day on her husband just as he walked in. We end up treating the people we love the most the worst. So if you want to be happy, you have to invest in your relationships, especially with your family. The third then, Muhammad, out of the four, is community. You see, you can never be truly happy if you only live for yourself. True happiness is in bringing happiness and joy to other people, in being community-centric. And I think this is one of the reasons why people are so unhappy today. The walls have become higher, the houses have become bigger, but the dining table is no longer accessible to as many people as before. You're working much longer, 15 hours a day, 14 hours a day, but you're giving much less time than before to your community. In the old days, the houses were smaller, the tablecloth was longer. The hours of work were less, community work was more. And of course, community work doesn't pay dividends in rands and cents. You just get a kick up the behind. Right? You do for an organization, you do for people, they're never satisfied. It's a thankless task. But apart from the reward which you will get in the akhirah, it brings a lot of satisfaction. Yeah. When you do for others, you feel much happier than if you do for yourself. And it doesn't mean you have to have money to give charity. It's more about time. I mean, I can pass you R1 million check and say, Mohammed, okay, you were this organization, go and help somebody. I'm doing a great deed, I'll get a reward for it, it'll bring me some happiness, but it's very impersonal. It's very disconnected. But if I myself get involved in trying to help people, I may not have a cent to give. But either I meet people with a smile. Many times I'm having a hectic day. Sometimes I'm at the airport and I got so many things on my mind, and I had to wake up 3 o'clock in the morning to be at the airport at 5 o'clock to catch a flight at 6 o'clock. So, the day hasn't even started and you're already feeling tired and you're thinking of the long day ahead, and you're worried because, you left the car at the mechanic and the child was sick, and you just come there to the counter to get your boarding pass and you're greeted with a smile. It just melts all your frustrations. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has taught us this, that the minimum you can do is meet people with a smile. The more you smile, the happier you will be. If you wear a smile on your lips, you're going to end up wearing a smile on your heart. So meet people with a smile, say kind things, say pleasant things, then try and help them. Simple things. Guide someone who's trying to park. Help somebody who's struggling with their luggage. Make place for somebody who's trying to find space. That is the basic level where you start, and you'll see what joy and what happiness it'll bring to your life. Help, find a project, find a cause, help out, and then you'll get great satisfaction in that. So that's the third part, right, of the happiness portfolio. The fourth part is that don't neglect yourself. This obsession with material progress mustn't make you machine-like in who you are. Many centuries ago, Moulana Rumi rahmatullah alayhi was walking at night with a lantern in the streets of Konya. And somebody asked him that, what are you looking for? He said, I'm looking for a human being. Show me a human being. And I think that's a question we need to ask ourselves today. Have we forgotten how to become human? How to be human? We've become very machine-like because our whole lives revolve around technology and machines. Machine is very routine-based. You flip the switch in the morning, it just does and does and does and does and does until you flip the switch in the evening. But many times you realize you're just on a hedonistic treadmill. Like on a treadmill, you're running and you're sweating and your body is aching, but you're on the same spot. You're not making any progress. You're not going anywhere. So you're caught in the routine of the rat race of life. Early morning, traffic, work, back, traffic, sleep, And, that's it. But you're not taking time out. You're not taking time out. There's this anecdote which I always give. It's so profound. They say, there was this man who applied for a job as a woodcutter. So he got the job, and the first day he chopped 15 trees. And the boss was very impressed. He called him in. He told him, nobody has ever chopped 15 trees in one day. I'm really impressed. So he did what we would do. He came earlier the next day, tried to cut even more, but he only managed 13. So he thought to himself, you know what, maybe today it was hot. So my energy levels were a bit down. The next day he came even earlier, worked even later, because now he was thinking of a promotion and a bonus and everything that will go. It came down to 10, and then it came down to 7, and after a few days, within a week, it was down to three trees in one day. So he came to offer his resignation to the boss. But this boss was not a boss, he was a leader. He told him, no, the problem is not with your work ethic. The problem is that you have made one simple yet critical mistake. You're chopping. Every day you're coming earlier, you're leaving later, you're working harder. You forgot to sharpen your axe. Already after the first day, your axe became blunt. That's why it dropped from 15 to 13, the next day from 13 to 10. But had you sharpened your axe, you would have had to work less hours, not as hard, and you would have got greater results. Now, the sharpening of the axe is in getting adequate rest. Sleep is such a beautiful thing. We working, then we go sleep with a busy mind. I don't want to say, maybe it's a discussion we can have another day, but I've gone for an entire workshop on these things, that there's different levels of sleep. And you need to get into the deepest level for your body to get full rest and full repair of your body and your mind to take place. And many times you may sleep for 6 hours, but you are not in a deep sleep because your mind was still running. They say 1 hour before you sleep, you must shut down. No gadgets, no lights. Your room must be like a cave. It must be dark, it must be quiet. You wind down, you do light things like reading. You read your kalimas, you read your du'as, read some Quran, make some dhikr, sleep on your right side, sleep with wudu. Then sleep becomes an enjoyable experience. When you wake up, you don't reach for your phone first thing. When you wake up, you read your du'as, you get yourself mentally psyched up, prepared, you go relieve yourself, you make wudu, you read your fajr, you read Quran, you make dhikr. Now you get ready for the day. So that's when you'll have adequate rest. That is critical to your happiness. Otherwise, you sleep tired, you wake up tired. You sleep rushed, you wake up rushed. You need to organize your life. Our lives are very cluttered. Very cluttered. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam had a very organized life. You need to eat healthy. You need to keep fit. You need to connect with nature. We live in concrete jungles. Take out time. Have a space in your yard where there's a bit of a garden, there's a bit of roses. Go sit there. Otherwise, if you don't, take a walk in the nearest garden. Dawood Samson always talks about how he's got permanent pass to the botanical gardens nearby. He goes and he walks there. Experience new things. Do different things. Break the monotony. Break that cycle of monotony. Get out of that rut of routine. Right? Because in the end, what is going to happen is that it's just going to kill the enjoyment of life. So those are the 4 things, Muhammad. The portfolio of happiness. Faith, family, community, and don't forget yourself. So let's summarize. We started off by saying, why is happiness so elusive? Because our approach to happiness is wrong. We're seeking happiness in the wrong places. We focus on what we don't have rather than what we have. We worry too much about the past and the future. We're chasing the next and the next. Then we defined what is happiness. It's the consistent mental, emotional, and spiritual state of well-being. It has more to do with your internal condition than your external circumstances. It's not a destination that you arrive at. It's a manner of traveling. It's not out there. It's here in your heart, in your soul. What does happiness comprise of? It's a choice. You have to choose to be happy. Most of your happiness has got to do with what you do or what you don't do. It's in the small things of daily routine. It's not in the big milestones of life. How do you choose to be happy? By embracing the happiness recipe and portfolio. Faith is the first. If Allah is happy with you, you will be happy. It's as simple as that. Family, nurture your relationships. It's the biggest source of happiness. Community, pursue your own happiness by making others happy. And yourself, in the pursuit of everything else, don't forget yourself. Take care of yourself. Let me just say this in conclusion. Allah says in the Quran, من عمل صالحا من ذكر أو أنثى وهو مؤمن فلنحيينه حياة طيبة. If you lead a life in the obedience of Allah, then whether you are male or female, Allah promises you, as long as you bring faith, you do good deeds, Allah promises you live a good life. That's the long and short of it. Be an obedient servant of Allah, you'll be happy, you'll live a good life. And being an obedient servant of Allah won't only bring you that superficial happiness, it'll bring you true happiness in this world and everlasting happiness in the year after. Like the Quran says, Ya ayyatuha nafsul mutma'inna, ارجعي إلى ربك راضية مرضية. That, oh, the contented soul, return happily to your Rabb in a state where He is happy with you and you're happy with Him. That's the pinnacle of happiness. And living a life in the obedience of Allah will bring you ultimate happiness in this world as well as in the akhirah.
Moulana, Jazakallah so much for those wonderful words. And I think you ended it with the most apt ayat, فَادْخُلِي فِي عِبَادِي وَادْخُلِي جَنَّتِي. May Allah make us part of those who will be receiving that message. And I think that's the most important thing for us that we can all strive towards. That's the ultimate happiness we'll always want. Though viewers out there, let's hope you all can find that happiness we're looking for, and may Allah grant you all that is good in your life. From all of us in the team, have a wonderful evening. Until we meet again, fi amanillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.